Whatever tunes your knees to mush the hip, the lip, even if you gotta sift through the shit to get to the twist. The smile I high like it's your very last line. You'll never get another try. Do it loud, do it for the loud, for the here and now.
Everybody, this is my friend Jason Miller. You guys might be aware that I've done a couple of interviews with him. Uh, he's very exclusive with who he talks to, so I take that as a compliment. And he's back. He is actually a part of a Sasquatch Legend Meets Science 2 that's coming out pretty soon, and he has submitted some evidence that's going to be a part of that. So I'm excited. I'm hoping everybody gets a chance to see that. And the reason I bring that up is because I just read the chapter in the first one that involved Dr. Meldrum when he first discovered footprints in the Blue Mountain area, when he did a surprise visit with a friend of his to Paul Freeman's place, and Paul Freeman took him up to that spring's first set of prints that had been found, which was just a day old at that time. And those were the prints that convinced Dr. Meldrum that these things are living, being creatures. So when I visit with Meldrum this in a few weeks, next month, I'm going to specifically ask him because I was looking for that location in the book. He wasn't given the location. And I want the location so that I can look at it on the map. If we can go there, that would be fantastic because I'd love to go to the place where it began for him, and then send the drone up, be sitting in chairs and just kind of take in the whole area because there's some historical significance to the fact that this man started his journey from that moment on once he realized they were real. And now here we have a gentleman who is going to be involved in the second part of this series of books. So he actually runs a Facebook page, Northeast Washington Sasquatch Society. After he had his encounter with his family, you will not meet a man who has put more time and effort into the things that he does. To say that he's jumped into the deep end of the pool is an understatement. He jumped in and he's taken the reins, and the methodical approach and the consistency. He's doing things that everybody should be doing, but they're not. And that is the details, the documentation, everything journaled, and it's the consistency and going to the same places over and over and over again. And that's what hits me right here because those are some of the things that I've done in the past. And needless to say, we've kind of connected on a level that I appreciate. I appreciate what he's doing. So and I'm an information junkie. So here we are, man. I heard a discussion that you were a part of just last week, and I spoke to you about it. It was about people who have contacted you because of where you're at now in this field, and you are actually being contacted by people occasionally. And specifically, I want to hear more about that place that you went to, even though you've got relationships with people on the Colville Reservation. Matter of fact, you've got access that other people don't have access to because of those relationships. But needless to say, this is a very interesting. I couldn't wait to talk to you about it because I know it involves things. I'll just ask questions as we go, but you tell me about this location.
Okay. Well, first of all, that was a wonderful intro right off the bat. So, as you mentioned, when I first had my encounter in 2013, I started just a little tiny local Facebook page. And it was only meant to just share what I found, what I've been finding, and my first class A encounter with my family. And I didn't expect much of it. It was just something I was just doing on the side. And it kind of started off with people contacting me saying, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you." I get a hold of them, kind of get blown off. no big deal. I mean, I am brand new to this, so I just want to absorb as much information as possible. Well, one day, this wonderful woman contacted me, and I have to leave the names out due to respect. Absolutely. She contacted me over Messenger and basically gave me a wonderful compliment stating, I've been following what you've been posting for the past couple weeks, months, etc. And I would like to invite you to come to our property for dinner. And I'm thinking, well, okay, we're going to go out, have dinner, and I'm going to hear some woo-woo stories. I'm going to hear some, you know, just filler, basically, is what I expected. So I give her my address. We exchanged phone numbers and we started talking over the phone. And she says, would you please come up on this particular day? We're going to have dinner for you. And I accepted the invite. Now, as I am leaving, they wanted me to be there at a very particular time. So everything is ready, just like a Thanksgiving, a Christmas, a holiday meal. So I knew how far of a drive it was from my house way up to their place. And I half-heartedly, kind of, but also seriously, wrote down the address and the phone number for my wife. And I said, if I'm not back by a certain time, call the police, because I've been, they got me. I've been set up.
Can I go ahead? I know we're going to be protecting the name of these people, but can you give me a general geographical location within the state of Washington?
Yes.
I mean, I know where you're at. Where would this be in relation to where you live?
So where I live in the town of Colville, and you would drive south, heading towards Spokane, and it would be between the town of Addy and the Columbia River. So it's on this secondary range called the Huckleberry Range, just a little mountain range. And they lived in a very isolated area with no cell service, etc. So it would be due south of Colville, Washington on Highway 395. Then between 395 and the Columbia River. That's as best as I can give the general direction, or as best as I feel comfortable giving out.
Well, people like to look at the areas, so and then dream. You're going to get a lot of people who are now going to look at that particular area and then just kind of dream about Bigfoot and and look at the map. I like doing that myself. So,
I'm a map junkie, so that's what I did. I also looked at the area that they're at. There's no national forest there, but there is a ton of DNR land, Department of Natural Resources. So that's free to get up into. Go up in there, do what you need to do. Leave no trace, leave nothing behind is my motto, of course. Some areas you need to get permission to cut through their property to get to the areas you might want to go into. But there's plenty of areas up there to sneak and peek and look around, if you know what I mean. Plenty of room. So after I wrote down the address, told my wife this jokingly but serious, statement, because I don't know these people from a stranger, but they were pretty adamant about me coming up there, and I didn't know what for. That was the key. They just invited me to come up for a family meal to kind of introduced themselves. They wanted to meet me. Her husband was in the military, retired like myself. So we had a few things in common.
Do you think that they, before revealing too much through Messenger or even on the phone, do you think that they wanted to first feel you out in person the way we like to do? I like to read a person in when I'm talking to them to get their mannerisms and figure out who they are on the inside. Do you think that's what they really, before they wanted to open up with what they're definitely going to open up to you with, they wanted to meet you in person and gauge who you are?
Well, I think that had already been done over the telephone and by how I posted things on my Facebook page. I never say this is what do you people think? Give me your opinions, etc. So I think the vetting process has already been completed. That's why I was offered this opportunity. So I, having a couple conversations with her, felt very, very comfortable uh, meeting her family. They seemed like very nice people. So Sasquatch had been mentioned, but not really in detail. It was just kind of, hey, I'm following your page. Come on up, meet the family. We're going to have a cookout for you, for me. And which again, I was still kind of processing this. Why me? Lo and behold, I get up there, get out my rig. It was like a family reunion. Everybody was out there, little toddlers, like, you know, working their way on up. And everybody hugged and greeted me and called me by my first name, not sir. I felt like, like I said, a family reunion. Like, welcome home. We haven't seen you for a long time. That's the heartfelt warmth that I got right off the bat. So I let my guard down.
Well,
I
you
mean,
know,
I was,
it's funny that you describe it that way. I felt the same way. I've spoken at a conference, and what's funny about putting yourself out there, whether it be in this format here where we're talking this way, you don't know how many people are going to watch this. And the funny thing is it's like watching somebody on TV. You feel like you know them because you've seen them and listened to them and read all your posts and all that stuff. But the thing is, you don't know them, but they know you. It's a crazy dynamic that you have to go with the flow when you come up with people that you don't know, but yet they know you or they feel that they know you.
that's right. Couldn't agree more. So very on guard. But as I mentioned, after I met everybody and got that vibe of, okay, I can exhale, I can let that tension go, that feeling of I'm out of here any second. So that was gone. And after we sat outside, it was just before dark. Uh, that warm time of the year where you don't want to go inside. You want to stay outside as long as possible, but dinner was ready. So we go inside and they have a seat. What would you like? And I'm like, well, what y'all cook? You name it, we've got it. And I'm just like, I mean, this is like a holiday meal. This was no joke. So being not cautious, I didn't ask for a whole lot. Just throw a couple pieces of chicken on my plate and glass of water, and I'm good. Everybody else is just porking out. They're just going to town. So, and I'm watching. Okay, so if everybody else is eating the same food, I'll take a second plate, fill her up. So after we're done, here comes the shop talk or the reason why they wanted me to be there. And I have used this tool in my toolkit almost weekly from that point on. And I'll elaborate on this here shortly. So we're sitting in the living room, toddlers, young kids, teenagers, moms, dads, grandma, grandpa. I couldn't count. I mean, I can't remember how many people were there, but it was a bunch. I mean, the whole living room there was no more seating room. And one by one, they started to share their experiences on this property, this parcel of land that they have owned since the homesteading era, where if you could head out west, if you could brave yourself, life, limb, and your family, and if you can make it out there, you got a particular amount of acreage as long as you cleared it for use for building your homestead, and then agriculture or some sort of payback for the government. Now, I don't know the years this occurred. To me, it's irrelevant because I don't care. It's the fact that these people have been living on this parcel of land since they cut down the first tree. And I want to say they started out with 400 acres, but I know it's tenfold now what they own. Over the years, they've bought up surrounding areas. So they own a large parcel of property. Well, as we're sitting there, one by one, each individual is telling me about a Class A encounter. Not, I heard this or could have seen this. This is all things that they have seen, witnessed over decades. And I can't remember her name or her age, but maybe 6 or 7. She was the funniest one because she was talking about how she goes out there in the starberry patch and would pick and hand strawberries to the juvenile or the smaller ones while the parents, each parents were watching. Now, I was like, really? But nobody, I didn't pick up any, my detector did not go off, if that makes sense. And this little girl was so adamant about her picking these strawberries and giving them. And one by one, each family member told me a different visual encounter, whether it was close to the house, daylight, nighttime, pretty much the full gamut. Now, one thing I didn't do out of respect was write down notes. This was just them sharing their life
experiences. Yeah.
Experiences. And later on, the grandma, she showed me her sewing shop. The grandfather took me out to his workshop where he's rebuilding Model A Ford vehicles. I mean, like a museum on the property. So they're showing me everything on their property. On top of, while we're walking and talking about encounters and stuff, they're also showing me around their property. I just felt like I had been a long lost family member coming home, and there's, hey, look what we've done to the property since you've been gone, etc. That's the feeling I got. And after, I want to say it was around 9 o'clock at night, we went back into the living room and we're talking some more. And I'm absorbing all this information, all the characteristics, all the behavior patterns, etc., that telling me that happens time of year. During the wintertime, they're gone. They don't know where they go. Well, I have a theory of that. As we're sitting there talking, everybody kind of stops and looks in like a general direction. And I'm thinking, no way. There's no possibility that they are going to say, hey, there's one outside. But that's not what happened. What happened was the great grandfather, who was in the very back bedroom listening to the whole conversation, basically was bedridden because he was very ill and very old, mustered the ability to get up, come out into the living room, and then start talking to me about his history and his encounters, which that was the cherry on top. That just blew me away. The way that they lived amongst these beings, nothing nefarious, never any problems, never any overlap or turnover equipment or friction. It was just the fact that he said, since day one, since we got here, our family has always lived amongst this other family in harmony. He told me a couple encounters that were just amazing. One, he was crossing a little creek, slipped, twisted his ankle, and he was having a hard time getting up out of this creek bed. And one came out of the bushes and helped lift him up onto his feet, and then gone off into wherever they went, or he went, or she went. We don't know. But those stories, and I say stories because I know they were fact. Again, no, my detector did not go off at any point in time. So after we got done talking and they allowed me to ask any questions that I had, and I had a lot. I mean, I'm yapping their ears off, and they're instantly responding. Nobody was hesitating with the response, which is another visual and audio cue that they're not making things up on the fly. We go, well, we're in the main house, and the grandma and grandpa and the great grandfather, they needed to go to bed. It was getting late. So we went out to where the woman and her husband invited me. They were staying in a very large RV while their home was being built. So we're sitting out in the RV for hours, just talking, just talking. And she goes, when do you have to be home? And I says, well, I told the boss by a certain time, and if I'm not there, the sheriffs will be here. And she kind of laughed, and I'm like, well, why? She goes, you are more than welcome to come here anytime you want, even without notice, to go do what you want to do out on our property. Don't harm, don't cause no problems with, their property, forest fires, don't bring anybody unless you get consent. But feel free at any point in time to go out and research. And I'm like, can I go now? She goes, go for it. And I'm like, let's go. Who's coming with me? And they're all looking at me like, we're not going out there at night. And that's when I like to go out. So right. I threw on my backpack, and they told me the way to get out as far to the furthest point as possible, and which I followed, and I got way out to the back 40, back 40, and sat down on a log, just listened, talked, said hello, my name's Jason. I might be back pretty soon and it'd be nice to see you next time I come back, and sat there for a while. Nothing happened, of course. Didn't get the spidey senses going on or anything. Grabbed my gear, slowly started walking back to the RV. I got to the RV and knocked on the RV. I was just getting ready to tell them, all right, it's past 1 o'clock night. I better get home. And she goes, oh, no, we're not done with you. Come on in. We got more to talk. And so I was able to get a hold of my wife on a landline and call her and tell her, hey, I'm okay. She's like, sucker, I was just getting ready to call on you. You know, you're so lucky you called right now. So I told her I'll be home sometime by morning. And we just sat up for a couple more hours talking, sharing encounters. Well, it's basically them sharing more encounters because I was fresh and new to this, and I am just soaking this up like a sponge.
From what I gather so far, if you don't mind me saying, and I'm reminded of the story of Kerry Arnold, who passed away a few years back in an automobile accident, but he was a big time podcaster, and his story is very believable, and you could tell how troubled he was about but his encounter involved 15, 20 years of going to the same property to hunt his entire life, when he had this fantastical encounter with a large male Sasquatch, and how troubled he was about it, that he realized after the fact that they were there all along. It took 20 years for him to see one, and even it was by accident. So if he would have never have had that encounter, he probably would still be hunting there today and not know that they're there. That's the part that I want to take issue with. These people got a property off the grid and developed it themselves for the last 150, 200 years through their singular family group. These things were there when they got there, and they've been there all along. Uh, but these people have respected them enough to just live and let live, and interact the best way you can. Maybe have a little bit of a reciprocal relationship going, where we give you a few items, everything's cool, and that symbiotic relationship, and you're rewarded with the occasional encounter that's a lot more in depth than just a class B, or maybe a sighting of something of shadow running to your reward is one picking you up out of the creek when you hurt your leg one time. Though for someone like you and me, that would be the greatest reward ever. And these people have learned that it's taken lots of time, and it's the mindset of respect, and
Yes,
just fantastic.
respect is the perfect word. Each side respects enough, not one left and the other, they didn't leave. Symbiotic relationship. And to this day, it still occurs. So that was my very first way of meeting people to gather data, intelligence, information to help me progress in a faster manner than out there bumbling, stumbling around and just making tons of mistakes. Oh, and I've made so many stupid mistakes. I mean, no, it's just how we learn.
Right.
But the key to all this is that I sent you, it doesn't matter which, I don't know if you're able to pull up one of the pictures I sent you.
Yep, the map.
Correct. And then I'll elaborate on the importance of the map.
Oh, I don't think it'll show it.
It's good. There you go. Okay, so people, when you look at this map, and due to the fact it was on Randy's phone and there was glare, it's irrelevant. You can see hundreds and hundreds of pins on the map. Now, that map is not expanded. It is, if you were to log on to our website, you can expand the map, and each pin, there we go. Exactly. Correct. So there you go. That's a clear shot. So the blue pin is Colville, and you can see that there's a cluster area north, and that leads up to where.
You want me to see if I can pull it up so that we can have it on the screen here?
Oh, it's okay. I'll just
Okay.
I'll just give a quick verbal explanation of why it looks the way it does. The Columbia River, Lake Roosevelt, runs up to Canada, and the nearest border crossing on the Columbia River is Trail, British Columbia. That's the first city that you'd come to. And there seems to be a choke point around the town of Northport, Washington. And
can you see the map?
yeah. So on this map here, where your cursor's at, basically, I either head east or west, depending on the time of year. But the map itself is a collaboration with a fellow researcher. She lives on Vancouver Island in Comox, BC. And her and I have been working on this map for 10 plus years. And each pin has its own explanation, whether it's a class A, a class B, etc. And a majority of those pins where we add and we type up a paragraph or an explanation are people who have contacted us. And then we have a discussion. So here's how I do this. If I have well over 500 so far, people who have contacted me over Messenger, email, or met in person. But what I do is I have a basic protocol that I've kind of fine-tuned. So if you yourself contacts me, I don't want to sit there and type. I don't want to sit there and go through this discussion in flat, monotone talk. I want to hear your voice. Just like you mentioned earlier. Let's get that rapport going. Let's get that feel of who you are, if you can, over a telephone call. I also enjoy meeting people at a local restaurant or a tavern, sit down and have a beer or two, and really, really get them in a comfort zone. Now, it's not for me. Now, I do get something out of it. I get some information, but a majority of these people are sharing what is either happened to them or whatever. It's kind of like therapy in a way. They feel comfortable sharing their encounter or what they just want to share with somebody who sits down, looks them in the eye, and listens.
So do you get the feel that that's what these people on the homestead were getting from you also? that you were somebody that they wanted to kind of like get the story out or get what was happening out. And with that question, also I have the question about the strawberries and is there any other food products that they would reciprocate with?
Well, question number one. Yes, I'm the only person that they have felt comfortable with sharing this family history with. They've been waiting. I guess the best way to put it is they've been waiting for the right person to come along, and I was tapped. I don't. I don't want. I want to say her name so bad, but SW. Thank you, honey. I mean, I can't. You did it. You did it. And I think that they were waiting for the right individual who had the right, not communication skills, but the right intent or vibe about them. Because there's a lot of snakes out there who will, oh, they want your info bad.
Big
And then,
talkers.
yes, yes. So
So when it comes to the food products, you were talking about the young girl picking strawberries. Did they plant strawberries
yes,
specifically
yes,
in a location that made it
yes,
easily accessible to the Sasquatch?
yes.
And
They
and
had
and,
I'm
and
sorry.
you also mentioned other food. Like, didn't you mention eggs or something? Eggs being left
Oh,
out or
that was another that's another person.
okay.
Um, but no, what they did was on this hillside, kind of back behind their property, where they would continually see them along the tree line, just kind of right at that sweet spot where they're there, but they're just not going to come any closer. So they planted the whole hillside with strawberries. Now, it's their property to do as they wish. You can't go out in the national forest and plant watermelons. I mean, you get caught doing that, you're in trouble. But on your own property, plant what you want. So they just nailed this hillside with strawberries. And of course, strawberries spread. So over time, it's just this hillside of strawberries, and that's for them.
Man, and what a wonderful idea. I mean, really, there are wild strawberries, but not in the numbers that you could get in a patch like that's planted. And can you imagine the treat that is for the Sasquatch to come down there and that might be the biggest single effort on the people's part to establish a relationship by creating something and especially if the Sasquatch can pick up on that they did that for us.
Yeah, they know that they did that for them. Exactly. Now, right now, we are in the middle of the huckleberry season. Um, Forest candy is what I call them. If you start picking one, you can't stop until you're purple. Your face is purple, your hands are purple, but you get sick of them after a while. But for them to come across these strawberries, which are bigger, more filling, instead of picking 100, you can pick 20 and get kind of the same calorie intake and more and carry off more. So it was a sweet gesture. And yes, they know that those were planted for them. So
I hope people listening are taking note that it's not about. I mean, and believe me, you're talking to. I mean, I'm going to call a spade a spade. I've tried so much trickery. The trickery is only going to get you so far. It's got to be subtle. It's got to be subtle trickery. It can't be blatant trickery. But this should let you know that, man, there are ways. There are ways that you can do this. I just listened to a podcast today where someone in Oklahoma bought some land and was clearing the land, and just their reaction to what is happening is so different than this homestead that you're describing, and the reactions from the Sasquatch are different, more aggressive, lots of intimidation, and so I'm telling you, your demeanor makes a big difference in how you handle it. It sets the stage.
it does. To get back to where I left off about the interviewing, this is something that I do religiously. Is when I meet somebody, they contact me, usually over Facebook Messenger, and I want to hear their, let's just call it encounter, whatever it might be. I want to hear it 3 times. 3. First time, you might just be too excited, just wound up to tell me everything. Best as I can do to slow you down. They might slow down for 30 seconds, but boom, here they go again, just motor mouth, because they're excited to get things off their chest. And I'll take notes, whatever I might jot down real quick. And I always ask if I can talk to them again later on, whether it's over the phone or in person. But I try to do this 3 times. If all 3, now we're not going to get the same story right 100% all 3 times. I mean, unless you got a photographic memory, but it's going to be pretty within the lines of accuracy. After the 3rd time, if you nailed it, I got you. I got you. No matter what you say about this encounter, I'll believe, because I'm really good at listening and picking out
discrepancies.
Yeah, I'm being polite, being very polite. So I enjoy it. And what I get the most out of it, other than, again, data, locations, I get the reward of feeling like somebody cares about what they're telling me. That it's just, yeah, Mr. Macho here, but I do have a soft side. I want to hear, I enjoy their trust in me. And it really hits home when somebody will then respond later on and give me such a thank you, or a Christmas gift, or a card, or see me at the store and a hug or something. It's just a nice thing to do.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
it's something that you've created yourself. I mean, by
yes,
starting your page, being interested in the subject, it's almost like you have created this, and it fulfills whatever data-driven need that you have to figure out what's going on.
well, I do get information, locations, as I mentioned. You did state at the beginning, I have built up enough trust to be allowed to do what I do on the Colville Indian Reservation with no questions asked. And that right there speaks volumes, because they don't want you out there messing with them. And I'm not out there messing with them. I've been given my parameters. I've been given the rules, and I am not about to break them, because I know I've been given a gift, and I'm not going to blow that gift or ruin it. So that happened last year, and that really made it special for me.
Well, from what I understand, you also have somewhat of a relationship with some forestry officials.
Yes, that's a great one. During the last winter, I was investigating, well, let's just put it politely, 2 snow machiners who were heavily drunk and loading up their machines, and they heard an audible sound. And I was coming up the mountain road. They flagged me down. My truck people know my truck. I mean, they know my rig. So I'm coming up. One of the guys flags me down, and he says, "Hey, we're loading up our machines, and we got a loud scream coming from this direction." And I'm like, honestly, I'm in my mind, I'm like, these guys are plastered, I'm not even going to deal with it. But they were sticking to their guns. But we're in a valley. So the sound could have come from any direction. There's no way of telling because it's bouncing off the hills and so forth. But I told him that I will be back tomorrow to go up where you guys heard this sound, and I'll see if I can cut across any tracks in the snow or anything. I got their phone numbers, and so the next day, I had been up just pounding the snow, just getting as high up as I could, and finally working my way down. Popped out onto the main road, a couple miles from my truck, and I'm just working my way, moseying along right before dark. And up comes an F-150 game warden vehicle. And I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm going to get questioned what I'm doing out here. That's their job. I'm out carrying a rifle. I'm just out in the middle of nowhere. And officer rolls his window down and he says, "Hey, Jason, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "How do you know my name?" He goes, "Oh, we know what you're out here doing." So that's pretty much word of mouth. They allow me to do what I do. And he also shared an encounter that him and a coworker had earlier that year, and which was pretty incredible. And
So it just goes to show you, people, if especially if you're an active researcher, that your actions will precede you. If Jason would have been a type of person who didn't care about the land, property lines, just that type of person, or abusive to people or things like that, then that too would have gotten back to these gentlemen who would have been in charge of whether or not he could continue that. So if you're a decent person and you be decent in all of your mannerisms and behavior, whether that's with people watching or not, because you never know what parts of what you do will get back to other people before you even meet them.
In a very small community that I live in, word of mouth, bing, 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 and you're ruined that quick. And I'm not about to lose that trust that I have had built up over many, many years. I was just invited to a 4th of July cookout by somebody I had never met before. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it. No joke. I get at least 1 to 2 messages a day on Messenger. And I do get back to you, people. I will call you. Give me a day or two, or, we'll play phone tag, but we will talk. We will talk. And some people don't want to talk. They just want to type out a manifesto just to get it off their chest. And that's good enough for them. It's good enough for me. I'll leave it alone. And I do get quite a few of those.
So can we go back to the homestead that this whole conversation started around, and the elderly gentleman that shuffled out of his room to tell you some things? What was his earliest recollections? What was it him who hurt himself in the creek, got picked up?
Yes.
So I'm assuming that he was a relatively young man at that time, or was he older?
I know he was not a teenager, and I know he wasn't an older man. I don't recall the age.
Okay.
But
Well, him being the patriarch of the current family, him being the patriarch, what was his recollections from those that preceded him in the family, like his parents and his grandparents? What did he have any history that he revealed to you?
he said that when they started to cut down the trees for the homestead, that everything was as normal as it would be. but to the best of his recollection, now we're talking generation 2 or 3 past or prior to him. It's always been the same MO. So I guess I want to say same for the Sasquatch generation. We don't know how long they live. We have no clue. But he did state that it's been happening since they started to build their homestead on this property from basically day one. And they never left. So something about maybe just the family bloodline, the aura.
Well, a lot of times, generally in a family, the youngsters that grow up in the family, if they've got good guidance, if the grandfather is of a certain demeanor and that's the way he is, and then the sons get that
Yes,
from him. Usually, if there's a problem in the family, it stays a problem because nobody knows how to correct that problem. But on the other hand, if you're a decent family with a decent father figure and a decent grandfather figure, that seems to carry through. That seems to be this whole family's their general makeup of how they deal with this is from the top down.
correct. Just like physical abuse, sexual abuse, alcoholism, it always, not always, but it most likely follows that same path until something stops it or it will continue. But yes, for this family just has something about them that we can't explain it. We don't know what they think, and they meaning Sasquatch, but there was never a single issue that he recalled growing up that was ever mentioned to him, or it was just part of the family farm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just wondering at the very, very beginning, did anything start out more aggressive when you were
Right.
moving in,
Not that he stated. And I feel extremely confident that he would have expressed that, because I did ask if there had ever been any
intimidating or, just
yes, like rock throwing, things being turned over, damage, the typical scare tactics that are reported. Uh, I do want to highlight this real quick. I I did state earlier that I have well over 500 interviews myself, and this might seem hard to believe, but zero are that way. I have zero intimidation factors, reports, scary incidences, none. Every single one that I have logged, they've all have been on the gentle, nice, inquisitive, just baseline nice is the best way to put it, which I contribute to the I contributed to the population in this area. It just seems to be we don't have that type of behavior built into these beings. It's just not, again, this is my opinion only. Somebody out there might say, well, I had this happen to me. Well, I never heard it, but I can only report on what I know and what I have cataloged and notated.
well, I wonder
Doesn't
I wonder if the Colville Indian Reservation being such a large reservation and taking up so much area around there, I wonder if that plays a huge role in the fact that so let's go back 150, 200 years, when this was getting all set up and set in place, that's generations of Sasquatch remembering that's who they've been dealing with, the people who have accepted them as another tribe, who has accepted them as living in all symbiotic relationships with them. So it's almost like that's how they were set up in this area. And at this point, us as the white man is just an observer, when really it's the native culture and the Native Americans there who really had the relationship with them.
Oh, did they ever? Yes. Yes. The oral history that they have, it's pretty outstanding. There's a book that somebody wrote about the history of the Colville tribes, etc. But here's a fascinating bit of rapport that is actually in our local museum here. So we have a little museum that's all about this area. And it's kind of, I find it wonderful to hear. And I'll make this short and sweet. So before Grand Coulee Dam on the Columbia River was built, which back flooded into Lake Roosevelt, thousands and thousands of Indian graves had to be relocated due to the water level going to be rising and putting these graves underwater. One thing that it did was it submerged an area just 7 miles from me called the Kettle Falls. And it is a series of cascading waterfalls that prior to the dams, prior to white men coming in and damming up this river, I mean, it's history. It is what it is. That spring and fall, when the salmon runs would come in, there is this back bay. Now it's filled with water, but before it was flooded, it was a flat, like prairie, flat area where all the local natives would come in, set up their camp, etc., to collect the spring and fall salmon runs. Now, if anybody's familiar with how natives will stand out on long sticks stuck into the rocks, and they'll stand out there and net them. And I mean, we're talking about the old school way. So during the daytime was for the natives to collect their share. Now, this is back when the river would be just filled with the natural resources. But at a certain time in the evening, on the opposite side of the river, here would be the vocals, letting the natives know, get your butts out of our way, because we're coming down to get our share. And then they would come down off the hillsides, and they would be collecting their share right in the evening and at night, and going back up during that period, and be gone. And this would be happening day and night. So the tribes lived amongst this resource and shared this wonderful gift. And unfortunately, it's not that way anymore. But at our local museum, they do have artifacts, and they do have a painting in there of such an occurrence. So it's history. It's not folklore. I mean, in a way it is, but in this area, it's history. It's fact. It's fact. There's no debating it when you get out there. So I am very thankful where I live. I'm not leaving this area. Even when I'm gone, I'm going to be here somehow. But it's just one of these places that I've been gifted. And
well, we've hit on the major part of this discussion that I wanted to have, and that is the fact that it's really on the people involved.
yes, yeah,
How they want their interactions to go. According to this homestead, all that has happened there. Generally, you are the one most in control of how these things go and how they turn out by your own demeanor, by your own actions. So keep that in mind. If you take away anything from this conversation, try to take that away, and learn to calm yourself and take all the information in and just have a plan. If you want to try to communicate, but learn how to not be offensive. Learn how not to be where they have to worry about what you've got in your hands. I mean, you're really going to have to expose yourself if you want to have the type of interaction that most of us want to have. You're going to have to get past that fear, that fear, and expose yourself in a way that makes you vulnerable. And that's a hard position to get yourself in, to be vulnerable. But I think that's almost required by them. It's that vulnerability that tells them it's okay for them to step out on you. So think about it, people. I think Jason's given us a good example of a whole family who has, I mean, having their youngster picking strawberries and letting them her hand it to a youngster, a young Sasquatch. If that's not, if we all want to protect our kids, but can you imagine not only making yourself vulnerable, but allowing your grandchild or child to reach out to one? That may be what the Sasquatch is looking for. That acceptance, the and that comes without the fear. If you were fearful, you wouldn't behave that way, and they can read that, I think. So, hey, take it for what you will.
I got it. And that's great. My best advice is, if somebody wants to talk to you, as you just put it, don't be an a-hole. Don't let that person or people feel uncomfortable. Do your best to just let them talk. And the longer they talk, the more receptive you are. It just keeps coming. And
well, I also want to let everybody know that I mean, we're talking like in 3 short weeks or something to that effect. The 14th, somewhere around the 14th of next month, is when we're trying to set up this interview with Dr. Meldrum, and we're going to be talking to him about all kinds of things, but we're specifically going to be talking to him about evidence that Jason himself has submitted. So, we talked about that on the interview that I did with Jason, so that we don't need to go into that. But I'm looking forward to having this discussion with Dr. Meldrum, and I do want to talk to him about what I said about getting the location of where this all started, because then we are going to travel to the Blue Mountains outside of Walla Walla, which Jason is extremely familiar with that area. He's elk hunted in the area. His wife lives down there, has family there, or his wife has family down there. So we might work it out to where not only am I going to get to visit Jason up in the Colville area, but he may join us down there for a while in the Walla Walla and be our guide. I am so excited. You guys all know that I've been there several times by myself. I go up there and drive that whole skyline road and find a road to park on and sleep all night, get pelted with rocks all night long, and I'm just in heaven. So to be up there with like-minded people, and we're gonna be filmed, so that that's always fun. That's a lot of work too. Because these people need to be taken care of. They're not real campers, and so I have to figure out ways to help take care of them while enjoying what I like to do. But having Jason there would make it so much better. And we could do some fun stuff. I can't wait to throw that drone up at night, and especially if we get some activity. I'm just super stoked about the whole trip. I'm going to be filming as much as I can with my GoPros. Of course, the film crew is going to be filming this as part of the documentary. Jason's probably going to get a lot of airtime, so we're going to probably put a little makeup on him or something.
Good luck. Good luck on that one.
Yeah. So, but no, it's all good. It's all good. It'll be fun.